Sup gamers, I want to talk about my favorite 20-sided die, which is this purple one right here. With this die I double crit the big bad evil guy and forced the GM to rewrite the entire end of our campaign. I rolled so many ones as a fighter with this die that the battlefield ended up strewn with dropped weapons by the end of every combat. I don't know where I got this die. I might have picked it up as a single in a big bucket, or I might have found it on the floor after a gaming session and didn't try very hard to find who actually had it. I've had it for so long, like 20 years at this point, that I don't actually know where I got it. At some point I grew suspicious, though. It seemed like I got way too many natural 20s and natural 1s on this die. And so I decided to test it out. And it turns out that this die is not a fair die. And I'm going to show you guys how I did that and what the distribution looks like, because it's kind of interesting. It really does roll more 1s and more 20s. And you'll actually notice over here the number 10 is missing a little bit. The edge is a little more curved there than it would be on any other face, because it's been worn away. And so basically it rolls a little too much over the 10 and doesn't end up seeing the 10, which is on sort of the side. So it makes those middle numbers less common. And so I'm going to show you guys how I tested this, and then I'm going to show you the distribution, and it'll be a fun old time. Hey, also, shout out to my dice bag. Very cute, very Easter. So I'm going to be rolling the die, and I'm going to be tallying what I get on this clipboard here. I ran this test way back in grad school and have a spreadsheet from back then, and I'm going to add to that data today so that the data will be better. Alright, let the games begin. First roll, what are we going to get? 3. Nice. 8. Boom. 19. Want to wait for that very first crit. 1. There we go. 4 rolls in. Got my first nat 1. 5. Now I do believe 4 is the number that is least likely to come up, because of how wobbly it is. It is the side that is opposite 17, which is connected to that 10 issue. So I guess 11 and 4 are the sides that you can't get. 20! Right after the 1, as if that means anything. There it is, first 20. Okay, so it's been a few days, and I've finished rolling. I did 1,000 rolls. You can see the tally sheet here. Multiple columns and subtotals. I ended up using the other side too. And all in all, I did 1,000 rolls of the d20. And you can see the results here. I put it into a spreadsheet. I've got the rolls from this year, and I also have the rolls from back in 2016, which was when the last time I did this. And so the green numbers are the ones that came out more often than they should, and the red ones are the numbers where it came out less often than it should. And so
you can see the number 1 came at 7.9% of the time, which is almost double the chance that it should. And then 20 was a little bit higher at 6.3. And that's just for 2025. If you look at the 2016 numbers, they're similar. They're a little bit less extreme than the 2025. And then I combined the two, because if you do that, you can just sort of add all the numbers together to get a 3,000 sample. And so you can see those numbers here. And I also put them all into one table so you can compare them across the two samples. And they mostly line up. They don't quite always line up. So if you look at like the chance for 6, the result of 6, back in 2016 it was a little more likely. And for the trials I did this year, it was less likely. And so I think that what that shows is that I need to roll more. 3,000 is not enough. So I'll probably do this again in 10 more years. And I've got this, I'll keep the spreadsheet. So I'll do this in 10 years, and then I'll add those numbers in, and eventually I'll have 10,000 samples, and then we'll really know how fair this die is, or how unfair this die is. One interesting thing to see is that the average result is pretty close to the fair result. And so I got that number by multiplying the roll value by the percent chance, and then summing that down the line, and then dividing by the total number of rolls. And so for a fair die, it'd be 10.5. And for the 2016 sample, it was a little bit higher. So that means the die will roll better than a regular die on average. For the 2025 sample, it was actually a little bit worse. So that shows that the number of samples that I've taken are not enough. Another point of that. But then like with the 3,000, it actually is really close to the fair result, which might be a coincidence, but at 3,000, I feel like that's a lot. It definitely took a while to roll these dice. I think for this 1,000 that I rolled, probably took me 2 hours over the course of a few days to make all those rolls. And then just because why not, I made a few tables. So this table shows the differences between the 2016 and the 2025 rolls. And so you can see the general sort of waviness of these lines. They sort of match up. Number 4 and number 11 are like way low. 14 and 1 are sort of the highest chance of rolling. And then the pattern's basically the same, but like there's a little bit of difference there. And then I also made this table, which has got the cumulative result, and then I put that line in for what a fair die would be. And so you can see which lines go above that, so those are more likely, and then the numbers that are lower. And so that's my D20, my purple D20. I'm going to keep rolling this die. And so my question to you guys in the comments, would you play with this die? Would you allow this die at your table? What do you think? Thanks for watching. Bye.